So,
Nice to see you.
likewise, reunion in New Jersey now.
We're in New Jersey, in
Well,
the
thank
United
God.
States
Yes,
of America.
yes, yes.
This is our first broadcast in the United States.
Indeed, we've done it once, remember, remotely.
That was during COVID.
Yes, it was during
But you
COVID.
were in Armenia, I think.
Yes, and you were in New York.
And now we're both in the Western Hemisphere.
Indeed we are.
By chance.
True, yeah.
So we thought it would be nice to have a Western Hemisphere two bishops.
A special edition of two bishops from New Jersey.
And in particular,
From Paramus, from the Syrian Orthodox Church, the headquarters of the Syrian Orthodox Church,
Right.
St. Mark's Cathedral, which was recently, recently for me, it's been 10, 15 years maybe, that it's been renovated and a beautiful center has been built next to it. And it was the vision of the previous Archbishop, now the Patriarch of the Syrian Church.
That's right.
And really it has come into fruition. There's a cathedral, a chapel, a monastic building with 4 floors.
It's a wonderful center.
Youth center, and of course the offices.
yes. But today we want to talk about, we're in the middle of Great Lent.
Indeed, thank God.
We thought we would talk about the saints that are commemorated this Saturday, which is the middle, I think it's the middle Saturday.
For us
of
today,
Lent.
actually yesterday was Michi.
Was Michi.
So middle of our Lent.
just past the midpoint of Great Lent. And these are the 40 Martyrs of Sebaste.
Karasun Mangung.
Karasun Mangung, Sebastio Karasun Mangung. They are beloved saints and martyrs of the Armenian Church because, of course, Sebastia is and was in historical Armenia. It's an area of Western Armenia that was obviously populated by large numbers of Armenians going back very, very early. And these martyrs date from the 4th century, specifically the year 320.
Exactly, that's when they were martyred. Yeah.
Yeah, so remind us the story.
Well, the story is pretty much popular, really. It's about after the Roman Empire became tolerated Christianity during the Emperor Constantine. Emperor Licinius actually reverted and imposed persecutions on Christians. So in the year 322 is when this martyrdom takes place, and basically 40 soldiers, Roman soldiers, are arrested because of their Christian faith.
And we call them Karasun Mangung, which means young people, not
Yes.
children, but
Yes.
young people,
Indeed.
because they were soldiers.
Indeed.
So in those days, who knows? There might have been teenagers.
Most
teenage
probably,
boys.
yes. Well, yeah, most
So
probably.
we, the Armenian Church, we remember them as children.
Indeed. Maybe also Mangung Havado, in the sense,
That's nice.
children of faith, maybe.
That could
children of the church.
Could be.
In that sense, yeah.
Could be.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, basically they were arrested because of their Christian faith, and they were forced to denounce their faith. When they refused to denounce their faith, in a very, very cold, wintry day, such as the season now, they took them to a freezing area around a lake, and they made them walk into the lake half naked.
Onto the ice, naked.
Yeah, naked.
In that terrible cold.
And then at the shores of the lake, they lit fire. So they said, if you denounce Christianity, you can come out, and you'll be safe. But of course, Christians refused to denounce their faith. According to the tradition, one of them couldn't stand the pressures, and he left. And as he was walking to the fire, he died. The strength of faith of this 39 Christians triggered in one of the Roman soldiers now to leave the camp and walk into the lake, announcing his conversion to Christianity. Right. And ultimately they were, when it was getting late and they were persevering in their faith, they actually killed them. They chopped their legs and they killed them. And then in order for the Christians not to venerate them, which was the practice in those days when somebody was martyred, they actually burnt them. And they, spread the ashes on the roads. But their family members, some of whom, according to traditions, they were actually forced to come and see their sons torture and die, gathered their ashes, and based on that, church fathers, some say related or maybe were witnesses, wrote the story of the 40 Martyrs of Sebaste.
Yes, all the great saints, all the great saints.
Of course, the message of the story is perseverance in faith despite persecution. And we may not have to endure the freezing temperature of cold lakes, but we have our own challenges and difficulties that Satan imposes on us, whether it's because of the place where we live or because of the life conditions that we have to endure. So I think the message simply is perseverance in faith, and ultimately, the Lord rewards those who remain faithful.
Certainly an important message for us in this day.
Indeed. I have a question. There is a kind of repeated patterns in. I'm not the liturgist. I'm not a patristic theologian. There's a repeated pattern, almost identical, with some variations of the martyrs. And usually it is, the martyrs suffer, endure, and then there's a reward. But that's not always the reality in our lives today. We suffer, endure sometimes, and then we die. A believing family has a sick person, they pray and they fasten, but then the dear person dies. Look around us now, Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, even Armenia is a threat now. I'm sure there are millions of people praying for peace. I have issues with this very, very much simplified pattern where you have faith, you endure, and then God rewards you on this earth immediately. Yeah. I think that could send the wrong message.
I think you're right.
I think we must persevere. That's of course, we must be strong in our faith despite the difficulties. But I don't think we have been promised an immediate reward on the spot.
Absolutely not. No, absolutely not.
The Lord, He died on the cross. He died.
Then again, it's a matter of how you look at the story as well. I mean, from one perspective, this is the utter tragedy and defeat of Christianity. These 40 men who were so faithful and so saintly, but at the end of the day, they died.
Yes, indeed.
They died. They froze, and then even beyond that, they were desecrated.
Yes.
So, it all depends on how we look at these stories. From the Christian perspective, that martyrdom is a triumph.
Yes.
Nahadagutun means they're champions. Nahadagyan. So, and we know, there's a field of theological study called hagiography, right, which just means the study of the saints.
Life.
So looking into these stories, and there are hundreds of them, thousands of them, and they fall into, actually a relatively few plot lines. And we have to recognize that there's a certain style of writing there. Indeed. It's not that every detail, we know that these were embellished in some of their details, but behind them, there's a historical kernel there. And Christians, from the time they're eyewitnesses, transmit those stories because they give hope, they provide hope. Why else would these young men, what would drive them,
Indeed.
right, to go and suffer like that, right? The one young man finally ran off the ice because he couldn't. That's what I would do, I'm sorry to say. I'm terrified. I don't know if I have that kind of tenacity. But
by asking that question, of course, which you commented very, very comprehensively, of course, we're not doubting the reality of the miracle, or we're not doubting the strength of the faith of these people, nor are we saying that we shouldn't imitate them. Of course, we're saying we must do our best to be like them, as difficult as almost impossible as it may be. But I guess what I'm saying is the stories do not necessarily tell us there's an immediate reward that we will experience immediately on this earth.
No, any more than the martyrs of the Armenian genocide or the Syriac genocide. They suffered right along with the Armenians during that terrible chapter. So the immediate perspective is they died. It's tragic.
Yeah.
But with the eyes of faith, we look beyond that to those few who actually were fearless in the face of death, of certain death and suffering. They felt so strongly and so committed and so convinced of the fact that beyond this earthly life, there is another life which overlaps with it to some extent, but finds its fulfillment later with Christ. That is eternal. That's a different quality of life.
Absolutely. And as in the case of that one soldier who actually jumped as a result of their faith, I think that kind of perseverance in faith and endurance of the difficulties ultimately gives birth to nourished faith and stronger church and more Christianity. Vaga, martyr Vaga, is to witness by their death, their witness to their faith, which encourages the others to join the church.
And I think in many of our lives, yours, mine, and others, we've had chapters in all of our lives that from the outside, look like complete failure, complete failure. And yet something
You look back, you see results.
Right, exactly. The results are not visible with the eyes of sort of our usual standards of success in this world. But somehow, when we persevere, we begin to see that there are fruits to what appears outside to be a failure. Turns out to be a great success and a great witness, to the truth of God, the goodness of our Lord, and resurrection, rebirth, and revival into a new quality of life. That's really what martyrdom is about.
Well, during this holy season of Lent, we thank God for the tens of thousands of saints and martyrs that we have, who keep interceding for us and whose lives have become examples for us to emulate. And we also pray through them to the Lord.
We do.
This Saturday is their feast,
yes.
So we will be praying to God through them. And we ask our faithful to join us also in remembering the martyrs and praying through them to God.
Yes.
May the Lord receive our prayers through the intercession of our saints and martyrs.
Saints. Amen.
May the Lord be with you. Hopefully we'll see you soon in another videotape. We don't know from which state or which country in the world.
We don't know.
Hopefully we'll see you soon.
God bless you. Bye-bye.